You know what's great about directing this show, Justin?
What's that?
I can change your name whenever I want. so, so throughout, I'm actually going to put back what I erased. Justin, late as hell, Spears. Welcome to the show.
Late as hell, fashionably late. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
I can't believe I made it. I can't believe I made it. I'm late, but I can't believe I made
Hey, I can't believe I
it.
made it. We'll just end the pod with that joke. There we go. What's good, man? I'm so excited to have you on today. God damn it.
Yeah, it's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. I've been listening to these podcasts. I mean, you've been doing this for how many months now?
I mean, the
Are you
rebrand
close to a year?
happened. Yeah, I mean, the rebrand happened like more than a year ago, man.
Yeah.
Because before that, it was obviously the Men of Purpose podcast, which is kind of nice too, because I think that you and I have had conversations about this off air. But you're a huge reason why I even started a podcast too, man. You made it look so effing easy.
And then you realize, damn, it is kind of easy. This guy didn't do anything. I could do this. But
Oh,
I'm honestly, I'm very humbled that you say that, because I look at how you approach your podcast, how you approach this platform, and you do it in such a professional way. Um, it's really, I admire the hell out of you, man. I admire the absolute shit out of you, and you're
hey,
killing it right now. And the people that you get on for these podcasts, like, you're getting authors, you're getting, just amazing people.
yeah.
And honestly, hearing their journey, and hearing the struggle that they've had to go through to get to where they're at in life, it's honestly, man, it's really inspiring. And I'm glad that you took a podcasting platform and just ran away with it.
Dude, that means a lot to hear you say. And it even means even more that you say that because my mom gets mad at me for all of my F bombs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, because you're her baby, man. She's always gonna,
Yeah.
you know, tell you not to cuss. Like, I even every now and then I'll let a cuss word slip around my mom, and I still, even as a 26-year-old, I feel guilty cussing around my own mother.
You do?
I
Dude,
do, seriously.
I've had a conversations with my mom about this plenty of times. I'm like, Mom, you have to let me be me. And then she hits me with like the mom knowledge. And I'm like, God damn
But see, my mom's not even. She doesn't even really say, like, "Oh, don't cuss," like, "Watch your language," because, like I said, I'll let a few cuss words slip just because it's a part of my everyday vocabulary, right?
Yeah.
Everybody can talk like a sailor every now and then. But yeah, I'll let a cuss word slip, and I almost feel guilty inside. But my mom doesn't say anything. But still, even though that she doesn't acknowledge it, me being a grown ass man, I still feel like the 13-year-old who accidentally said fuck in front of his parents instead of fudge.
Yeah. Dude, one of the classic things that we used to do, my mom used to get so heated at it. I'm sure you've heard it before, but you start it with fuck, get about it.
No, that's
She used to get so heated at us too. It's like, Mom, I'm saying forget about it. I don't know why you're so mad at me.
or I would do something similar to that, but I pull out the old Austin Powers when they were cussing, but it was really
Yeah,
Japanese. So it was like,
yeah.
please eat shit. Like, no, he's saying, please eat shiitake mushrooms. So when I was a kid, every time I would say, shit, taki mushrooms.
Oh my God, it's the small intricacies, man. Well, Jay, I'm super excited to have you on, man. I think you're at a really beautiful place in your life, and you're really thriving. And I already kind of introed a little bit this, but as someone who's been a part of your process, and as a family member, if you will,
Yeah.
man, it's beautiful to see. So let's go ahead and have you introduce yourself. You're part of the Pod family. So, like I said, man, this is amazing to have you on. So, let's intro you, and then let's dive into this origin story, man.
So my name is Justin Spears. I'm a Tucson, Arizona native. I come from an amazing family. I have one older brother, Josh, who is the connection between Desi and I, and then it later transformed to we don't need Josh. Like Desi and I are brothers without Josh. Screw him.
Yeah.
But I have an amazing older brother, a guy who I always considered a hero, a guy that I've always inspired to be, a guy who I looked up to. And then I have amazing parents. My beautiful mom, who's always held it down for me, has always been that supporting, loving mother. And then my father, who passed away a little over 3 years ago. He's still to this day is always with me. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't think about him. And you don't want to talk about heroes. My dad was my ultimate hero because
Yeah.
I saw this man wake up at 3:30 every single morning and go and work 10 hours, 6 days a week just to support his family and give the opportunities for my brother and I that he didn't have when he was growing up in inner city Los Angeles. So I have an amazing family. My foundation, I couldn't have asked for a better foundation. The person who I've become is because of those three people that I mentioned. And of course, you have other family members like grandparents, aunts, uncles who have always, had a great role in my life. But yeah, my foundation, it all starts with my three rocks, my two parents, and then of course my older brother, Josh. And it's so
Yeah.
cool to see my brother take everything that we've learned from our parents and apply it to
Yeah.
his life. Now he has a wife and two amazing kids. So to see like
Yeah.
the transformation of our lives from being kids to now adults, it's really fantastic. And I got a little bit of a different route than my brother right now. He's got the family route right now. I'm just
Yeah.
an um, an eligible bachelor, as Pharrell Williams said, and drop it like
Hey,
it's hot. Um,
ladies.
but I am a writer right now for the Arizona Daily Star. I cover both college football and college basketball. And I also host a radio show on ESPN Radio down here in Southern Arizona from 3 to 6. So I'm on ESPN Radio. I get to write about the college team that I grew up following. It's kind of a surreal moment. Like if you told me that I'd be doing this 10 years ago, I'd say you're crazy, but I'd take it every day of the week and twice on Sundays. So right now, life is very solid. Currently, I'm in this weight loss journey that Desi, that you've been a part of from day one. And it all started with the death of my father and realizing the reason why he was in this position was because he didn't really take care of his health. He didn't take care of his body. And honestly, like little over 3 years ago, that's when he passed away. And it's still been a part of my journey. And it's something that's always going to be with me. But right now, I'm in a very good place because my mental health is in great shape.
Yeah.
My brain isn't cloudy. It isn't foggy. I have clear thinking. There's no distractions in my life, and I've gotten to a point where I'm just all about myself and my family, and I'm taking time for me. I've always been that guy that's worked my ass off, and I still have a great work ethic. But when I first became a professional journalist, I would work crazy hours and not ever put me first or make
Yeah.
myself a priority. And Desi, that was one thing that you instilled in me. Just something that like you like kept, putting in me like, dude, your job is
Yeah.
always going to be there, man. You have to take care of you and you have to put yourself first above anything else. And when you do that, everything will take care of itself. And I've been stubborn about it. Desi, you know me. I'm hard headed. I'm a stubborn guy. I could be a prick sometimes, but if, I can't thank you enough for having a hand in my journey and me getting to this point right now.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, it's been absolutely my pleasure. And Jay, I'm gonna talk at you so that you can fix this real quick. You might have to switch mics because I think we're getting a little bit of feedback. So see if you can do that. Plug it in a little bit more or switch it up to your headphones. But as you're doing that, I'm gonna talk at you real
Okay,
quick.
cool.
One of the things that I thought was really fantastic, Jay, and one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on is one because we've shared such a history together, and in looking at your health journey, I mean, you entrusted me years back in getting you started. And I think one of the coolest things that I've seen about you is looking at your journey of some of the ups and downs and understanding some of, and this is like, as a pod family, I want all of us to get behind this idea too. We don't ever plan for really big hardship. We don't ever plan for moments of grief, but gosh, man, it changes us, and it changes us in a beautiful way. And I think, Justin, one of the cool things that I saw with you throughout this process of knowing you at a very young age is really seeing you develop a passion for sports and a passion for that type of collaboration and the importance of that. So, like, before we get into like the ways in which you're thriving today, let's take a step back and kind of look at your life. You are obviously in this place where you get to do something that you love every day, which is sports, right? You get to comment on it, you get to have a take, and your Twitter following is amazing, and we'll tap
Thank
into
you.
that too. But I want to know, kind of stepping back, like, when did sports for you in your life, when did it become like that thing?
Well, I hope the microphone issue has been settled. I switched
Good.
up microphones, so hopefully the sound is much better this time around. But no, I got involved in sports, or sports became a big part of my life ever since I can remember. Like I grew up loving the Lakers, right? Because my family is from Southern California. My parents got married in 1987 at the height of Showtime. So Magic
Yeah.
Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar are, it's like staples in my household, and so we always loved the Lakers. So and remember, I was born in 1995. So my like first memory of watching basketball, of watching the NBA, was Kobe and Shaq, and seeing those two guys and seeing them win championships. So like my childhood was always loving the Lakers, being a diehard Lakers fan, and then when I got really interested in football, I noticed that my brother and my dad were Rams fans. I'm like, but they're in St. Louis. And then I
Yeah.
had to get
Yeah.
the history. They were once upon a time in LA, so we
Yeah. In
followed them
LA.
to St. Louis. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to like the next best team that I think is, a solid team, and it's from Southern California. That's the San Diego Chargers. And plus, when I was playing Madden, I would do a creative player, and for some reason, the creative player always looked the best in the powder blue uniforms. And
Yeah.
those powder blue Charger uniforms, I was like,
They're
ooh.
nice.
So playing Madden, and then having family in San Diego, of course, with my grandparents on my mom's side, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a Chargers fan. That's my football
Yeah.
team. And then baseball team, I was actually a D-backs fan until they changed their colors. I was the purple and teal Diamondbacks fans.
You
I
didn't
was
like the black and
all
red?
I wasn't a big fan of the Sedona red and black, as they
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
So I switched to the Dodgers, and I was like, well, my dad loves the Dodgers, so it's an easy transition. But meanwhile, my brother is an Angels fan. He's a Rams fan. The one team that connected all of us was the Lakers. And then since we moved to Tucson in 1997, which is a good year for Arizona basketball fans, I was a baby, and I just remember, being around Tucson my entire life. I don't remember living in Southern California. So I'm a
Yeah.
Tucsonan through and through. So being in Tucson, being in a college town, all you heard about was the Arizona Wildcats. The Arizona basketball team was it. So I
Yeah.
fell in love with Arizona basketball. My brother still is a USC fan, kind of an ASU fan. Like he just does it to spite the U of A because he grew up in Tucson and he's a big hater.
He's a real big freaking hater. Josh, what up?
He, yeah, big hater. But I grew up an Arizona fan, so I grew up loving the Wildcats, and that's why I say that being a writer at the Arizona Daily Star, covering the Arizona both men's basketball and football team, like these are two teams that I grew up watching. So
Yeah.
it's a drink of true. It really is.
Yeah.
And then I get to talk about them on ESPN radio in Southern Arizona. Like it's awesome. But I always grew up around sports. My brother and I, we played sports. Football is the best game there ever is. And football will teach you
I
so
agree.
much about life.
Yeah.
And I am And I understand that parents are concerned about what football can do to you, the long-term effects
Yeah.
with CTE, with concussions. All of that is valid. And I actually asked my mom this. I'm like, if you were knowing what you know now about concussions, CTE, what football can do to you, would you still allowed me to play at 8 years old? And she said, no, I would have had you play maybe your eighth grade year, the year before high school, allowed you to get
Yeah.
that 1 year of experience, and then you could play high school. But, I grew up I played 10 years of tackle football, played basketball, but still, football is the ultimate team sport that teaches you so much about life, teaches you so much about working with others and relying on other people to get the ultimate job done.
Yeah.
So I love football. Obviously, you and I have a connection. We both played at Cienega High School, played for Nehmer Hassey. And then I got to a point in my life where I was a really good football player, but how many 5'8" offensive linemen do you see playing D1 football? So I was like, I don't think I could play. I don't think I could play at the next level. So let me figure out a way to still be around sports and be involved in it, but still do what I love, and that's talk about it. And I grew up watching Sports Center, watching ESPN, listening to radio shows. Mike and Mike in the morning was always
Same.
something that I listened to. And then it transitioned into the Dan Levitard show. I love Dan Levitard, and honestly, I kind of model my career after him. He was a guy who was writing at his local hometown newspaper, the Miami Herald, and became a radio personality. That's kind of who I want to model. And one thing that I love about Dan Levitard is that he has fun what he does. Anytime you listen to the Dan Levitard show, they're always having the best time ever. It's fun, and that's what sports is about. It should be about having fun. Sure, there are serious moments, and you've seen over the last few years politics kind of leaking into sports a little bit. But at the end of the day, sports should always be about fun, and I want to have fun with my job, and that's why I'm in sports.
Yeah. I definitely agree about the Dan Labitard piece, because not only does he have fun, but for anyone out there who is ever thinking about running any sort of live show or a podcast, there's a lot of pressure to try to be perfect with it. And I think after listening to him, I mold a lot of my questions and things like that just based off of organic conversation. And then also noticing when there's like dead air and just like laughing about it, because there is a lot of imperfection that comes with this, Jay. And I know that you can really resonate with that, because I think Dan does that in such a miraculous way of just trying to fill time.
Well, there's one of my favorite awkward moments. Every time there's dead air, they always play the Hakeem Nicks laugh.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and it's the funniest thing ever. Or they'll do when they were on ESPN. I think Stugatz is the best second guy ever. He's so damn funny. And I know people are like, man, this guy's an idiot. I love Stugatz. He's the best.
I love him
but
too.
They do Sports Center updates, and they'll read police stories from other places. And then Stugatz, my all-time favorite Sports Center update is when he talks about somebody at a Target in North Carolina or Missouri, some random state. They got arrested because they grabbed a six-pack and drank it in the fitting rooms, and they got a six-pack of Stella Artois.
He mispronounces everything.
Yeah. He's like, what? It's like, that's how you pronounce it? It's like, no, it's Stella Artois. And he's like, you tell me, give me a Stella Artois, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Just call it a Stella. But yeah, I mean, they have fun, and sometimes it doesn't have to be about sports. It could just be a fun topic. And one thing that they always told me not to do was really talk about politics.
Yeah.
And so the only time I ever talked about Donald Trump on my radio show was when the Clemson football team won the national championship. They then go to the White House and they're eating Wendy's and Burger King and Domino's. And we played the sound clip of Donald Trump where he's like, we have an amazing spread. We have pizzas. We have hamburgers. We have many, many French fries. And that's it. That's the only time we ever talked about Donald Trump. So Man, it's sports can be fun sometimes, and
Yeah.
that's definitely what we try to have, what we try to do whenever we talk about it on the air.
Yeah. And I think it's a special thing to be able to go in and out of that and still keep the theme about like what the show is about. And I feel, Jay, like that's something that I think you do extremely well. I'm wondering for you, kind of like looking back at your origin story behind sports. I mean, you mentioned a lot of your family and how they play such a pivotal role for you in some of your success today and in your continued success in the future. I want to touch on from a habit standpoint. Like you and I started working together, like I don't was it like 5 years ago? I don't remember. I
Yeah,
think it was like
yeah, it was
five because
about
Rory was
yeah,
like
4 or
pretty
5 years
damn
ago.
brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what prompted you to start taking a look at your health, in a different way? Because this does play into the role of your dad, which I know that we're going to talk about. So like let's kind of tap into that because I think there's a lot of gems that we can glean from that aspect of your story.
Yeah, well, when I was playing football, I was in pretty solid shape because I worked out twice a day and I was
Yeah.
constantly moving. So I was able to use those Sienega football gold cards that you're supposed to sell at the beginning of the year. And I go hit up the McDonald's Arita Ranch, like, yeah, man, get a buy one, get one free Big Mac. Wolf
Yeah.
down two Big Macs like 2 hours before practice, and everything would be, all good. You can't do that when you're just a professional, when you're not playing football at a high level anymore. Like you can't
Yeah.
put down two Big Macs and expect everything to be okay. And I think it was a hard time adjusting to the on the go fast um, diet, if that's what you want to call it. It was
Hmm.
just on the go eating food that was just going to fill you up. You didn't have to cook it, but it was foods that were bad for you. And in my career, like it encourages you to go to the drive-through. It encourages you to eat out a lot. And so what I did was when working with you, you said navigate the menu, figure out the foods that are good for you, and think about color. You're right. Get your greens in,
Hmm. Yep.
your protein, your fats, and your carbs. And
Hmm.
so one thing that's really helped me out, over the last several months is, yeah, I've kind of maintained this going out, eating out lifestyle, but I've been able to find foods that work out for me. Like, man, I've eaten more Chipotle in the last several months than I could ever recall. But what I'm
Yeah.
getting at Chipotle is I'm not getting any rice whatsoever. I'm literally just like, give me chicken, veggies, lettuce,
Hmm.
corn, and pico de gallo. Put all that
Yeah.
together. Like that's a really solid meal. And then when you
Yeah.
couple that with just getting some simple workouts in, I'm like, holy shit! Like this is actually kind of working. It's
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it took me, getting used to changing up my diet. And that was like I told you at the beginning of this podcast, Desi, I'm a very stubborn guy. I'm the kind of person
Hmm.
that's like, okay, maybe if I keep this going, but if I tweak this, maybe if I up my workouts a little bit, get more activity in, then I'm going to see the results. But at the end of the day, man, it all comes down to diet. And I don't know why it took me so many years to realize that it's essentially 80% diet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I,
And
I
then when I
wonder
and
for
then
you, Jay.
also when I'm out on the road too, like I was just traveling for March Madness, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I need to really dedicate myself to eating the right foods that I know are good for me. And I always told myself like, oh, there's never really any good foods available. When I was at the tournament, man, they were like throwing fruit at you. They were throwing out
Yeah.
salads and like all this like really good food. I'm like, this is it, man. I can navigate myself. These are the foods that I know are right for me. And even during
Yeah.
my travels, I was still able to eat right. I worked out in Las Vegas for the first time ever. I was at the Pac-12 tournament. Who the hell works out in Las Vegas? Nobody ever works out in Las
Not
Vegas.
many people. Yeah.
But my big ass found a way to get a workout in Las Vegas. And it's just like challenging yourself and getting yourself out of your comfort zone. That's something that I've had to figure out over the last few years.
I think it's also, Jay, a really special place to be when you kind of know what works for you. And I think what is even more beneficial here is kind of looking at the role of your loved ones and where they're at in their journeys. So I would love to touch on your father,
Yeah.
that loving man. Kind of looking back, like what role did he play in how you navigate your habits and your health today?
Well, he was a guy that didn't really take care of himself. And my brother and I mean, we could see it from even as little kids. We were like, that's not right. Like we would see him get a home cooked meal, right? We would be sitting around eating dinner. He would maybe eat like half of it. And then would say like, "Oh, like I'm full," or like I'm not hungry anymore. And then like 5 minutes later, we see him in the kitchen putting down a ding dong or like a Twinkie or like one of like those cinnamon rolls that you get
Yeah,
in those Hostess boxes.
yeah,
So like we're like, well, I thought you were full, but you could put down two of these little cinnamon things. Like it
yeah,
didn't make sense. And as a kid, I could see like that's not right. And so, my mom was just like, well, I'm not going to babysit him. Like I'm going to allow him to just do what he wants to do. If that's how he wants to live, if that's how he wants his diet, then so be it. I'm not going to force him to eat these things. So, seeing that, I knew, okay, that's not something that I should do.
hmm,
And so that kind of was an example of what not to do. Unfortunately, it didn't. I didn't apply that mindset until just recently because I was
hmm,
always that guy that worked my ass off, that worked super hard, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to eat whatever I can find in the fast food in the drive-through lane. I'm going to,
yeah,
I have the biggest sweet tooth ever, so I'm going to, satisfy that. And I'm just like, this is something that is going to help me because I'm so stressed out with work. And I was essentially eating like shit because it made me feel better mentally. Even
yeah,
though I was physically becoming really out of shape, obese, I wasn't, myself. I wasn't athletic anymore. I became just really, really out of shape, and it was because I was working. Like I said, I was working so damn hard, and so these kind of foods were my comfort food, and so I would
yeah,
eat it, and I would feel okay with myself. But then it just piled up over time, and it got to the point where I was also bogged down mentally and physically. I wasn't in the best shape possible. So I was essentially rock bottom there for a little bit.
yeah,
Shortly after my father's death, and even when he was, kind of on his deathbed, if that's what you want to call it, he still wasn't able to like want to take care of himself. And like there's like one example, and I don't think my brother and I have like really talked about this. So my dad loved salty foods. He loved just salty stuff. Anything he could find that was salty, he just enjoyed it.
yeah,
And when you're going through fatty liver disease, right, non-alcoholic liver disease, having an excessive amount of salt is not good for you. And so
yeah.
what my dad would do was he would actually like give me some money and he would say, "Hey, I want you to go down to the Rita Ranch Market and I want you to get me some saladitos." And I
Oh
felt like
God,
that episode. I felt like that episode of Fresh Prince of Bel Air when Uncle Phil was trying to lose some weight, and
yeah,
Will was like trying to stay on Uncle Phil's good side. And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm trying to go to Mexico or go to this concert or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
get you this cheeseburger." And it felt like
yeah,
that episode. And what happened? Uncle Phil got a heart attack. And so
yeah.
when I would give my dad these saladitos, he would eat them, and all that salt that's in those, I mean, my dad would blow up like a football. And how do you
Hmm,
think I felt? I'm like, shit, I am contributing to my father's downfall. And
hmm,
my brother actually had to like kind of get into me a little bit. It's like, no, don't listen to him. My mom, the same deal, was like, don't listen to your dad. He's not trying to help himself.
yeah,
So I mean, seeing all of that, Desi, it was like I don't want to be in a position where I'm just like, you know what, F it. Like,
yeah,
it is what it is. I'm 26 years old. I can't have an is what it is mindset. I got to be
yeah,
in charge of my life right now. I got to take the
yeah,
reins on this shit and steer it while I can before it's too late. And so that's why
Mhm.
I've made the changes that I've made over the last year or two.
You know what's been really cool, Jay? Because I think conventionally, when most people kind of come into this journey, it's always about the weight loss. And I think one of the cool things, us working together and having to rebrand that concept of, hey, weight loss doesn't necessarily mean health in this case. What we want to try to do is to help you to start embodying someone who takes better care of themselves with their habits. And it's been really cool. And I wonder if you've kind of seen this, because I'm seeing your career continued to thrive. And I'm also seeing your health journey start to be synonymous with that.
Yeah.
And from someone who has kind of helped you at the ground level, now that you're thriving, I'm wondering for you, like, if we tap into your habits right now. You talked about like the foods that you're navigating. You've talked about some other things. What habits or rituals right now, as you're continuing to thrive in your career, can you not live without?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I mean, I'm always gonna have a dog. So my
Yeah.
current dog Barkley, he's loving life right now because I wake up every single morning and we go for a 25 to 30-minute walk just around the
Yeah.
neighborhood. And it's we do it early morning and it's great because the birds are chirping, the sun's coming up, and the weather's beautiful now. It's not super cold anymore in Arizona, so
Yeah.
it's just it's a good way to just start your day. So I mean,
Yeah.
walking my dog, taking that time every morning, that's something that I can't live without. And I would say playing golf has really changed my life. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's changed how I've worked out because when I was working out as a football player, being in the weight room, I would always try to work on bulking up and being that strong football player. I've studied different golf workouts and I've talked to like golfers, like people who actually
Mhm.
played golf in college, and I asked them like, what kind of workouts do you guys do? And they showed me. And so now when I go and work out, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to train like an athlete again, but I'm trying to train
Yeah.
like a golfer. And it's
Yeah.
crazy like how different the workouts are. It's more core, it's more hips, more lower back,
Yeah.
shoulders, all of that. It's completely different than when you were training for football. So I mean that's really helped me out. And I actually took some time away from playing golf just because college basketball season got too crazy. And so but I was still working out like the golfer, doing
Yeah.
going to the tree and grabbing like the tricep handles and doing like oblique workouts and
Yeah.
working on the core rotation and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then just the other day, I went to the driving range and I'm like, holy shit! Like the things that I'm working on, I can actually like notice a difference in my swing. So
Yeah.
playing golf, walking my dog. Um, I mean, there's always time where I sit down and read, whether it's news articles. I'm trying to read more sports stories.
Yeah.
I just finished up Three Ring Circus by Jeff Pearlman. It's the story about the Kobe and Shaq era. Jeff Pearlman is actually the author of the book that Winning Time on HBO was based off of.
Yeah.
So
I still
Jeff
haven't
Pearlman's an
seen any. I still haven't seen any of the show. I need to.
it's great, man. You got to watch it. But
Yeah. I still need to.
yeah, I mean, I just do certain rituals. I mean, and it doesn't have to be every single day, right? Right. I'm not reading a book every single day, but when I can, I take a few minutes just to check out and
Yeah.
not worry about all of the chaos that's happening in my life.
Yeah. Dude, you know what's really fantastic, Jay, and like you can see when someone is really enjoying themselves and the type of work that they do. And I see that a lot with you. And obviously it's gotten to a point where it's been an evolution. And I'm wondering, Jay, for you, as you think about where you're at in your career and as you continue to thrive, what helps you to continue just to show up every day with the same energy that you do in your endeavors? Like what helps you to do that?
The people that are kind of counting on me, the people who have belief in me, it really went from my future family to the people that are currently in my life right now. Like me showing up
Mm.
every single day, it initially went from I want to be the provider for my family because I eventually want to have a wife and kids. But then,
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
time, I've heard from people in my life, like friends, family members that always say like, "Just you're so damn good at what you do, and you're very passionate about it too. So like you're
Especially.
hungry
Yeah.
and you're talented. Like that's a really good combination to have." And I think about all the people who have belief in me right now, and it's like I don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, one of my favorite parts of the Last Dance documentary, and it gives me goosebumps every time I listen to it.
Bro,
It's
I've
when
watched that like 20 times already.
20 times. It's the
Yeah.
part where I think they lose in the playoffs, and then his trainer calls him and says like, "All right, so like, what do you want to do?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "I'll see you tomorrow morning."
Be
And
back
he said,
tomorrow.
"Because
Yeah.
because if you are going to take 3 hours out of your day to watch me play basketball, I owe it to myself and I owe it to that person to give you my best all the
Yeah.
time. To give you my best all the time." And like I still, whenever I hear that part, I get goosebumps. And I can relate to it because those people that show up for me every single day, right? I mean, I want to get a larger following. You're right. I want to be the best at what I do. But the people who have been rocking with me since day one, the people who show up for me, I owe it to them to be the best version of myself and to show up every single day and work my ass off and get to where I need to be because I owe it to them.
Jay, who are those people in your life?
Joshua Spears, Valerie Spears, my late father Gerald Spears, my grandfather Edward Spears, my uncle Edward Spears, my sister-in-law Charity Spears, my niece Harbor, my nephew River, my friends, anybody who's just been a part of my life, my journey. You included, Desi Abeda, the entire Abeda clan. You guys are all a part of this, and I owe it to
Yeah.
you guys because you've always believed in me from the time I was a kid growing up in Rita Ranch, always wanting to play basketball with my older brother's friends, but I couldn't because I was too young,
Yeah.
to being in high school, to then being in college. You guys saw my passion and my ambition when I was in college to now being a professional. You guys have always been there with me. And for that, I owe everything to you guys. And if that means showing up every single day, grinding my ass off, while also taking care of me, because I can't be the best version of myself if I don't put me first.
Yeah.
Like I said, I owe it to you guys.
Man, that's special. Dude, that same line in The Last Dance got me too. Because I've heard variations of that coming from Kobe Bryant as well. And I think one of the things that I heard from Kobe that I thought was super special as well was um, in regards to your work ethic is having a sense of respect for the people that came before you,
Yeah.
right? Respecting the people that got you to where you are today and honoring them and not only your work ethic, but how you produce. And Jay, I love that too. And I'm wondering, you and I have worked with athletes on opposite sides, right? You're in the media, I'm more on the medical side and with performance. I don't know about you. I don't think you and I have ever talked about this, but I think it's special. I have learned so damn much about the mindset of an athlete having worked with them that I've
Yeah.
developed for myself and I develop in any fucking thing that I do with who I'm working with, whatever. What have been some of the biggest gems for you because you've worked with professional athletes, right? You've talked with them.
Yeah.
You've been around. I mean, you just got to go on a badass trip, which we have to talk about um, with any of the tournament, right? So, like, what have been some of the biggest gems that you've learned from some of the highest producing athletes that that we see?
Man, I'm just like you said, when I was traveling for March Madness, I actually had an opportunity to really learn about Benedict Mathurin and his background. He's a
Yeah,
guard that plays for Arizona. He's going to be a lottery pick in this upcoming year's draft.
let's
He was one
go.
of the top players in college basketball this year. Ben, he comes from a very humbling background in Montreal. And when you think of Canada, like you think of Maple Leafs, you think of
Yeah.
Drake, you think of the
Yeah.
Toronto Raptors. Like you don't really like when you think
You
of
don't
Canada, you
you don't
don't really
really have
think
yeah.
of rough lifestyle. You think of Canadians are the nicest people ever. That's why they always say sorry after everything.
Yeah.
But he comes from a very rough background in Montreal, where not a lot of people make it where he comes from, and to see him go from this kind of no-name player that was discovered just because he got an invitation to the like NBA Without Borders camp, where they get a lot of like international, just kind of diamond in the rough type of players and put them in this camp, and he didn't really have many college offers. Arizona gave him a chance. He comes out to Arizona, plays for the Wildcats last year. It generated a little bit of buzz, but then this year launched himself into lottery status. Like that's just amazing. You know, the fact that he went
Yeah.
from being in a an impoverished community in Montreal to now pretty much a guy that's going to affect his entire family, like generations. Like he's going to be
Yeah.
making $4 to $5 million next season. Just by just next season alone, he's going to have $4 to $5 million in his pocket. That kind of stuff right there is just it's absolutely amazing. And you know, to also
Yeah.
see other athletes overcome injuries and get back and be themselves. It's really it's been really a treat to watch. And seeing a guy like DeAndre Ayton come in as this raw freshman to then this
Yeah.
Herculean figure in college basketball to then being the number one overall pick of the draft. It's been really a great journey. But there's one story, and people always ask me like, what is your
Yeah.
all-time
Yeah.
like favorite
I love
story?
this.
It has something to do with a tragic event. And this was actually one of like my first big stories at the Arizona Daily Star. I was covering a high school football game, and it was Ironwood Ridge versus somebody else. And one of the Ironwood Ridge coaches, they came over to me and said, if you're looking for a story, you need to go talk to that guy. Because that guy, his mother was actually at that concert in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. And this was the
Yeah.
country concert at Mandalay Bay that had the mass shooting.
Yep.
She
Yeah.
was one of the victims. And I'm like, well, is she alive? Is she good? And he said, yeah. I mean, she's back in Tucson. She's recovering, but like it was obviously a scary moment for her. And she's somebody who was at that concert, so you should probably go talk to her. And so I go over to the young man. His name is Noah, and Noah gives me his contact information. We set up an interview. Next thing you know, I go to their house a couple days later. I'm sitting on their living room couch, and we're talking about what happened. And she was saying that when she got hit, she eventually couldn't move, and her husband, I guess, like couldn't pick her up or couldn't do something. There was something that was like wrong with him, and she was like bleeding out. She got hit kind of like in her hip, like butt cheek area, but she was
Yeah.
bleeding out, and she like really thought that she was gonna die and that she was gonna bleed out. And she told her husband, like, I can't go anymore. I can't move. Like I just can't do it. Like you should go. And then next thing you know, this big muscular, what she called the blue-eyed cowboy, comes over, scoops her up, and takes her to a medical tent. And medical professionals gave her aid. They eventually took her to a hospital. She recovered. But like hearing her talk about like being shot, be like really thinking that, oh my God, this is it. This is where I'm gonna die. I mean, she broke down in tears, and she said like the one thing that kept her moving, the one thing that kept her alive was to be in the stands on a Friday night to support her son playing football. That
Yeah.
had me in tears. And still to this
Sure.
day is the only interview I've ever done where I was actually in tears, like sitting on this woman's couch. And
Yeah.
so like hearing that story, and then like when she came back, she got a standing ovation. Like she was walking into the stands with her cane. Everybody, gave her a standing ovation. It was a really beautiful moment. And the fact
Yeah.
that just a couple weeks prior to that, she was, on her deathbed, after getting shot in this horrible mass shooting. It's just crazy. And that's why
Yeah.
anytime anybody asks, like, what's your all time favorite story, that right there, that's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah. Man, as you're kind of looking at your life now, Jay, like, are there moments that you would have wanted your dad to see and you thrive in your career right now?
Well, I think that last part got cut off. What'd you say, Des?
So, are there moments in your career over the past 3 years that you wish that your dad would have been present for?
Why is it keep cutting out? Okay, what was that last part, Desi?
Are there
All
moments
right, we're
in
good now.
your okay? Are there moments in your career that you wish your dad was present for?
Yeah. Um, I mean, all the time. Like, I just think about the NCAA tournament. I think about, all the times where my dad and I would watch an Arizona basketball game together. He took me to my first Arizona basketball game.
Yeah.
They were playing Fresno State, and like I remember the moment where my dad said, like, "You're gonna go here. Like, I'm gonna. I don't care what it takes. You're gonna go to the University of Arizona." And so that was always the plan. So, my dad taking me to my first U of A basketball game. He took me to my first U of A football game, which was the game where Arizona just beat the brakes off UCLA. It's like 52 to
Yeah.
14. They had like Maurice Jones-Drew then, but every single time I go to an Arizona basketball game or an Arizona football game, I always think about, what my dad would think. And I
Yeah.
remember getting my dad and my mom tickets to an Arizona basketball game during the 2017-18 season because my dad heard all this talk about DeAndre Ayton and this
Yeah.
superstar freshman and how he wants to go see DeAndre Ayton so bad. So I finally got my parents tickets to go see Arizona basketball so my dad can go see this guy up close. And unfortunately, just days before the game, my dad got into a really bad motorcycle accident, and
Yeah.
obviously they couldn't go, and he could never see DeAndre Ayton play in person. I mean, there's just all sorts of moments that I wish my dad was around so I could tell him, whether it's going to the NCAA tournament or playing a round of golf at Torrey Pines in San Diego, where
Yeah.
they've had
Yeah.
the U.S. Open, they've had several golf tournaments, and there's just a lot of cool things that I've done over the last few years that I wish my dad could see. But I think the one thing that I really wish my dad could see is my health journey and
Yeah.
seeing me transform my body to being this super overweight guy to being a guy that's thick with two C's.
Yeah. I love it.
Because I know my
Yeah.
dad would see the what I'm trying to do to better my life,
Yeah.
and I just know my dad would just be proud of what I got going on. And going back to the Last Dance, the one part that I also really connected with was when Steve Kerr was talking about losing his father,
Yeah.
and how before every national anthem, he just thinks to himself like, "Damn, my dad would think
My
this is the
dad.
coolest thing ever. My dad
Yeah.
would love this right now." I have
Yeah.
that moment so many times in my career, in my life.
Yeah.
But I just know that, he's always going to be with me and he's looking down and he's my guardian angel. And so even though I want him physically here, he's still experiencing the moment.
Yeah. I think it's so special, man. And Jay, I just want to thank you for taking the time today because there's a lot of things, for our pod family right now. There's a lot of things that Justin mentioned that I think are so important. And I think one is understanding the role of your health and how connected it is to your passions. And the fact, Jay, that you've been able to combine those two and be able to talk about it very vulnerably, I think is so special. And I think another thing that I heard too is that there's an aspect of play right now in your life and referencing golf and how that's challenging you and it's helping you to think about your health in a different way, because that's what you're doing when you're going out there, is you're playing. And I think that for most people, they really lose out on the opportunity of playing because of standards that you set for yourself, or expectations that might not be
Yeah.
coming from a healthy place. And I think that's such a special thing. And I think the other thing that I heard, Jay, was um, you have moments throughout your career now that, like, damn, my dad would have loved this. And I love that homage, if you will, that, although he is not here, he is here. And man,
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for taking the time. uh, all right, so you kind of know, because you're a pod family. I have a couple questions that I do like to ask any of our guests on the pod. So first one, Jay, this is the Can't Believe I Made It pod, right? So what does making it look like for you in your season of life, and have you made it?
I have not made it. I think making it for me is when I can look back and say, I've done everything I could have possibly done in life, in my career, with my family, with my health, and that's still ongoing. I've not reached the top of the mountain. This beautiful game of life. It's almost like it's almost like golf. No matter how good you think you are, or no matter how good you have it, there's always room for improvement. There's
Yeah.
always, you can always shoot better the next round. And so I
Yeah.
continue to have that mindset. I continue to have that hunger with my life. But then, one thing about golf is that, man, you hit those shots that keep you coming back, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have some bad shots, but you hit those really good shots. That's like, yep, that's it right now. Like my latest Instagram post, I,
Yeah.
smoked a drive, and I was like, and you know what? This wasn't even for the camera. Like this was like me being my genuine self. I smoked it. And I
Yeah.
was like, look at that shit. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not nearly to where I want to be as a golfer, and I kind of approach life the same way. I'm loving this right now. I'm enjoying the journey, but in order to get to the destination that you want to get to, you have to enjoy every single moment of the journey. And
Yeah.
have I made it? No. But if you were to ask me, are you confident in thinking that you are going to make it? I'm going to say, hell, absolutely yes.
I
I
love
know I'm
that.
going to make it.
I love that.
But still ongoing, man.
Yeah, I would second that. I love that. Okay, second question. Obviously, this is a pod about the hero's journey. So, who is your superhero comparison, or who's your hero? You can answer it either way, or both if you want.
So I wouldn't say I have a superhero comparison, but since we're already talking about athletes and sports, I would say the one athlete who's had the biggest influence on my life is Kobe Bryant. And we talk about work ethic with Michael Jordan. Well, Kobe Bryant emulates everything about Michael Jordan. And I remember a point in time where I was just really hungry for any sort of motivation when I was facing academic probation at the U of A. Like my
Yeah.
GPA plummeted. I was just not focused. I didn't really have anything going for me when I was at the U of A. And so I needed something to kind of get me out of rock bottom. So I started looking up a bunch of motivational quotes from Kobe Bryant, and hearing how he approaches life and his craft in basketball, and how I used what Kobe said about how he approaches basketball, and I'm going to approach my career in sports journalism the same way. And the one quote that always stuck with me was that friends come and go, but banners hang forever. So like
Yeah.
you can not like me, but listen, we got a job to do. And so you
Yeah.
can, be my friend or whatever, but we got to win a championship. And I at that point in my life, I had so many friends who were like still trying to figure out what they wanted to do. Oh, should I go to school? Should I just work? Should I join the military? Like we're all, fresh out of high school. So a lot of people didn't know what they wanted to do. And that's when I kind of channeled my inner Kobe and said, okay, you have a lot of people that are like kind of, reaching and some could drag you down. Some could, steer you down a completely different direction. This is what you want to do. So
Yeah.
stick to it, stay committed to it. You made a deal to yourself. That's it. And
Yeah.
so when I finally graduated, I had an option to decorate my cap. So I put a red Kobe logo right in the middle of it with the caption, "Friends come and go, but diplomas hang forever."
Hey.
And so I committed myself 4 years to this plan. I got my degree, and it gave me a pretty good launching pad for my career today. And so Kobe Bryant will always be my my source of motivation, and still to this day is the only athlete celebrity that I bawled when I found out that they passed. It's just like
Same.
I sometimes I watch Kobe videos, and you can't help but get misty eyed. Like, I can't watch Dear Basketball, the one that the
Yeah.
short film that got him an Emmy and an Oscar. I can't watch that without crying,
Yeah.
because you could hear in his voice how passionate he was about basketball and how much it broke him knowing that he had to step away from it, but he was always going to be involved in basketball in some way. I feel that to my core. And so Kobe Bean Bryant, man, my brother and I, we bonded over our passion for Kobe. Kobe, when he was alive, and Kobe still to this day is a big source of inspiration. So Kobe Bryant, definitely my all-time hero.
Yeah. Oh man. Same thing. I watch a lot of his footage and interviews, and he continues to be an inspiration for me. And the fact that he coined the whole girl dad movement, I thought it was awesome as well. So I love that, man. All right, Jay. Last question for you, and we'll get you out of here, man. Thank you so much. Like I said, where can people find you? What sort of projects do you have going on that we can support you with? Any of that information that you can provide for us.
Desi, I appreciate the shameless plug here. So you can follow me on Twitter at Justin E Sports. That's kind of like my forte. Um, Twitter is my go-to for social media with what I do. So if you're on Twitter, follow me at Justin E Sports. I also, if you're in the Southern Arizona area, if you're driving around from 3 to 6, turn it on 104.9
Hey.
FM or 1490 AM, ESPNTucson.com. I'm on ESPN Radio for 3 hours a day, and it's pretty awesome. And then if you want to find out all of my written work, you can just go to Tucson.com.
I love it. I love it. Well, Jay, I appreciate you for our pod family out there. Make sure you go follow this man. Uh, he gives such a beautiful take on sports, and it's unblemished. And man, I'm excited to see as you continue to thrive, dude. So I love you as a brother. Thank you so much for taking some time, man. I appreciate you.
Love you, Desi. Anytime for you.